Yes, we're late. It's partly my fault, partly the computer's fault.
Partly my fault.
It's partly the computer's fault.
Yeah.
So Joe turned the computer on today because I was late to the studio, which meant it froze before we went live. It hasn't actually froze since, I think, the week before we went live for the launch of the weekend.
And that's the first time. Today is the first time I've ever turned that computer on and put the password in.
So it's literally you.
Yeah.
So today's the first time the computer's froze, the first time Joe's turned it on. So I'm sorry, but I had to reset it and reboot it all and then test it, and it looks like we're okay. I'm now very concerned it's going to freeze again. I've got a little NZXT thing up on the screen, so if it does freeze, I can take a screenshot. If it freezes, hang around. It takes me normally about 30 seconds to get us up and running again.
Yeah.
So don't panic too much. We'll be back. I don't know why it did it. I've got no indication as to why it did it, but we'll have a look later if we can. But we were trying to get live for you guys for the Liam and Joe Show. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the penultimate stream before Christmas time.
I know, it's very exciting.
It's very exciting. And I have been sent an extra special Christmas jumper to wear tonight.
Yeah.
So I'll be wearing that one tonight. If you want to see it, 7:30, I'll be bringing the Sisters of Battle, the Adeptosaurus. I'll be taking on Paddy and his Tau. So that will be on later today at 7:30 on the channel. And that will be the final stream before Christmas. More importantly, Joe, it's the final stream before my birthday.
Yeah.
It's more important than Christmas, isn't it?
To some.
To everyone, Joe. Right? Sunday is my birthday. I am a mighty 37 years of age.
Really?
Practically dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. That means I've got 3 good years left in me. Anyway, thank you for joining us. If you haven't already, please make sure you smash all those magical YouTube buttons for me. Hit the like button if you enjoy the content. Subscribe if you have not already, and hit that bell notification icon if you want to be notified every single time we go live or drop a new video. Today we're talking about 2 things. Firstly, the very exciting news at the start of the week that Valrak was wrong.
That's the most important.
That's the most important part of it. The Warhammer Amazon TV deal is not dead in the water. In fact, officially signed at the start of this week. So last year in 2022, they signed the letter of intent. This year, they've signed the final deal. Amazon TV plus Warhammer is going ahead. We're going to talk about that, what we'd like to see, what we wouldn't like to see, what they can do well, what they'll probably do badly, etc., etc. And then the other thing we're going to do today is we're saying hi to an extra guest. We've got a third person. You can't hear him. He's stayed quiet. But Kyle's here. Extra camera angle as well. So if you watch the stream on Tuesday, the second half of the stream onwards, Kyle was the person producing it. So Kyle's a guy I've known now for about 6 months. Talked about this on Twitch, I think, the other day, for about 6 months. Met him through motorbikes, brum, brum, like that, Joe. That's what they do. Yeah. And he said he wants to get involved with the channel and hang out. So we're trying him as a producer on the games to start with. But you play Tyranids.
Yep.
So you can say hello to everyone. You can say, hey, people.
Hello. Nice to see you.
And if you were watching the gaming channel yesterday, he was on DMZ with us as well. Yeah. So we lost Big Bad Chris.
Yeah.
He decided he wants to go and be competitive.
Yeah.
So he took a demotion and went to VT.
Yeah.
But, you know, sometimes the higher leagues don't work out for people and they have to go and play for the B team.
The B team.
So we were down to 5 people with me, you, Paddy, Brom and Eddie. And I needed someone to fill my slot. That's what Carl's doing.
Makes sense.
Anyway, you can all say hi to Kyle. We can ask him questions as well. So the 2 things we're going to talk about is Kyle and his life, basically, and then Warhammer TV. Not Warhammer TV, is it? It's Amazon TV with Warhammer, which is very much not Warhammer TV.
Yeah, it's not Warhammer Plus.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, other things you can do, if you've got big burning questions, if you've got comments on the topics, obviously you can stick them on big colourful postcards for us, aka Super Chats. Thank you so much to people that do that. And of course, you can continue to gift memberships if you want to bring more people into our crazy dysfunctional family. Exclamation mark gift. Joe has the iPad of power, and if he shows you the screen...
empty.
Scroll up from the middle. Now just turn it round. What have you have really broke it already, haven't you? Right, Joe, give it here.
The main screen now.
How have you done this?
I don't know, I swiped up.
Joe's a massive technophobe. This is the other reason why we need more producers, you see, because people like Joe exist. So this is our fan funding page. This shows us all the people that have gifted a super chat so far on the stream.
Yeah.
Right. And Joe will read it out.
All 0 of them.
Static sound there briefly. Might mess up a bit. Uh-oh, static. Well, for fuck knows. Anyway, there's a bit of white noise in someone's mic. That might be the mic 3. That's because we haven't tested it there yet. Joe, do you want to put those headphones on? They'll reach.
Can you say that, please, before I break it?
It's still blank, though. What's the point of having it? Anyhow,
go to another camera.
Well, the other camera I got is just literally your bum now.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go around here. Oh.
Can't you reach them?
I know, but I can break the sound break the microphones up so I can isolate the sound. I can sound all technical then.
Live TV, everyone. Live TV. This is the joys of live TV.
Hello. Talk.
Hello, hello, hello.
It'll be a rub somewhere.
It's
probably.
your beard.
Is it mine? Is it that chat? Is that what it was? Is this really annoying?
Hello.
It's because you were looking down at the iPad, I reckon. Yeah.
Well, they said static. Static and beard noise is very different. Sunglasses indoors. They're UV reactive.
Oh, your mic's falling off.
Oh.
Consummate professionals.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone has said something. Scott Stapley, it says, do you think Games Workshop decided to leak that it was off to Valruk to troll him?
We'll talk about it in a minute, yeah. Sunglasses indoors, well, it's sunny in here basically. They're UV reactant, aren't they?
Yeah.
And we have a lot of lights on us.
Well, they're constantly, tinted because I'm sensitive to light, so I get headaches.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
These probably aren't helping then, are they?
Well, hence why I'm wearing it.
You coming back, Jay?
I'm coming back.
It was not beard noise, says chat.
Well, I wasn't getting anything through the...
So they say beard noise is different. It was only for a split second. Okay.
I love the fact that beard noise has its own...
If you keep them on the arm of the chair near you, you'll hear if it's static. I mean, you can just sit with them on, Jay.
I can look like a radio DJ.
You can, yeah, there you go. You can have your fan funding back because there's stuff to talk about. It was not beard noise, says Willow. Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on it. Again, this is all part of the live TV experiment. The last time we had 3 people on mics for this particular show was when Adrian was here. Adrian, on that Monday. Right, Amazon Warhammer TV deal. A good thing.
Yes.
Definitely a good thing.
100%.
Right. Could it be a bad thing?
Only if it's done badly.
How would they do it badly?
Well, they go all Rings of Power on it.
I mean, seems to be the benchmark nowadays.
Yeah. I don't know if I can say it because I don't want to get us in trouble.
I know what you mean, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think that I'm excited because what they said to us originally, I don't know if this has been talked about again recently, but what they said to us originally was that it got Mr. the Carvel involved. Now, don't get me wrong, chat, I'm not one of those individuals that's going to stick his name in every single thumbnail and fucking title for the next month just to get clicks. And I haven't actually honestly ever watched anything with him in it, to be honest with you, really. That being said, what I have heard, and you guys probably know more about this than I do, what I've heard is when he was involved in The Witcher, it stayed very close to the lore and narrative.
Yeah.
And he stepped away from that project when they started to come away from the lore and the narrative.
Yeah, so obviously it was through Netflix, and Netflix producers started to paint him as a very problematic person during filming.
As in actual Carvel?
Actual Carvel. They basically said there was a bit of a smear campaign during season 2, because basically there's he's really difficult to work with, he's done a really bad job, he's just causing us loads of issues. And what it was that he has because obviously I've watched those interviews and stuff. He has memorized those books line for line, and people that they've interviewed that also they're like he's like a walking encyclopedia for The Witcher. They're like, well, in this scene, this would happen, and he'd say it like this, and then this person would be here, but the problem was he wanted it to be true, and the producer wanted to change it and force things into it. So instead of them saying, well, actually, he's just very passionate about the books and he wants to be good, they're like, he's just bad to work with. But I think that's good. And then he left, and they decided to walk away from it in season 3 when they basically just changed the story.
So that would lead me to believe that if he remains involved, because I believe they were talking about him being an executive producer for the 40k stuff.
He is.
Okay, well, so if that's still the case, that makes me feel quite positive about it in general, because it means that he's going to be... So what I really want to see from the Warhammer Amazon TV stuff, is I want to see true representation of the grim, dark universe that is the 41st millennium.
Well, in the Warhammer community post, they say that part of the reason it took a year was that obviously talking out the contract and also making sure that Games Workshop kept creative control of the projects, which meant that basically Amazon couldn't go, we don't like this, it's not Watcher friendly, we're changing it to this.
Do Amazon really care about Watcher friendly though? They're the people that picked up Clarkson, for example, when the BBC binned him.
I think the problem is with Henry Cavill, his experience with The Witcher, and now obviously Rings of Power wasn't received.
Which was Rings of Power on? Was that Netflix?
Lord of the Rings. That was Amazon.
Was it Amazon?
That was Amazon, yeah. And So Amazon's not got a great history of keeping to the narrative. So Henry Cavill and Games Workshop are like, well, we're going to be two hands on the steering wheel on this one.
Which I think is the right call,
Yeah.
to be fair.
Yeah.
Because I think that this also has the potential to reach an audience that's obviously it has the potential to reach an audience that's much, much wider than just your average and normal wargamer, which is good, obviously, because it could bring more people in. But I want them to come in with a realistic expectation of what the law of the narrative, the setting is.
Yeah.
And I think that if you don't set that realistic expectation, there's no point bringing those new people into the game or to the lore or to the universe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And they've got to do it in a way where it's not just another war program,
Yeah.
right? Because that will turn
Yeah.
a lot of people off. And there's a lot of examples within the Warhammer universe of they've got their own crime documentary, they've got their own crime series, they've got their own horror series. There's a lot of politics within the Warhammer universe that they can kind of really bring to the fore, where it's not just here is 12 episodes, an hour long, all non-stop action.
So when Warhammer TV launched a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, whenever it was, that absolute monumental fucking failure that is the Warhammer On Demand app for content, I was very excited to start with that we were going to get Warhammer watchable stuff. Like I'm, as you are, very invested in the 40k universe, and it just hasn't really come to fruition. Like it's mostly all CGI. In fact, it's all CGI or cartoon based. And I'm not really into that kind of stuff. So I got super excited about the launch of the Amazon announcement last year because it's not going to be CGI stuff.
No.
Right? This is going to be actual city, real people.
Well, the thing is, though, there was originally, back before the Amazon thing was done, there was already talk of a Eisenhorn series or film, right? This was announced. They said it was going to be made. They even had a cast photo of the people playing the characters.
Well, they can't. I wasn't.
And then that kind of just disappeared. So, like, bloody Oakenshield from The Hobbit. The guy that plays Thorin Oakenshield, he was going to be Eisenhorn.
Okay.
So I thought it was actually a very good choice.
Yeah.
And then Beckwin was going to be the You Know Nothing Jon Snow from Game of Thrones.
Kit Harington.
Not him. His
Bird.
wife.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she was
Ingrid.
Ingrid, yeah.
Whatever her actor's name.
She was going to be Beckwin, which is also a great choice. Wrong colour hair, but great acting.
You can
choice.
dye hair, Jay.
I know, exactly. So that's fine. Like, they actually said it all, and then it just, poof, disappeared. It's like it never existed.
When was this? How long ago was this?
Just before COVID.
Maybe that's why then.
But there wasn't a case of this has been stopped because of COVID. It's just, it's gone now.
Doug Lyle says Amazon Prime Reacher, Book Faithful, The Boys, Jack Ryan, all great adaptations.
Oh, Reacher is
Reacher's
fantastic.
incredible.
Absolutely fantastic. If you've read the books as well, it is.
I've never read the books,
Alan Richardson is perfect.
but I've started season 2 now.
Rose Leslie.
It's just about a large man solving crimes with his largeness. Right? He is like the best description I'd seen was on one of the 40K for Grown-Ups Facebook pages was like, watch Reacher if you like Warhammer. Space Marine solves crimes with Desert Eagle.
So are we suggesting potentially that Amazon have got more successful adaptations than they have failed?
Yes.
That's a positive then.
But the problem is that the big failure was the biggest franchise.
Yeah. Like,
Lord of the Rings, yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
It's got, it's one of the oldest franchises.
You're going to make a prequel series to the biggest film trilogy series ever. And the book that comes second to the Bible in best-selling books ever. And then just...
And let's face it, let's be honest,
Yeah.
Peter Jackson took flack for that series as well.
Yeah.
But there was a bunch of people who are real diehard Lord of the Rings fans that when he released specifically the Fellowship of the Ring to start with, who got really pissy with the fact that he'd come quite far away from them. So Tom Bombadil, or Tom Bombadil as we know him as, right, who is a huge character in the books, really early on as well, doesn't exist in the films at all. There's a couple of references like Treebeards as one of his poems or songs or whatever. There's a couple of references to Tom Bombadil, but he ripped it out altogether. He got rid of it. He's like, he doesn't actually help us tell the story of the rings going to Mordor. Thank you. So he just made the creative choice to do that. I think Warhammer fans are going to have to be, because there's a couple of things they could do in terms of series. I think we're going to have to be cognizant that not everything that's written on paper does translate well to TV. And timelines do have to change to kind of tell that story visually rather than via a book. And I think that Peter Jackson, although he took a lot of flack for some of the adaptations that he made from book to film, in my opinion, the first three, we're not including the Hobbits here or the Rings of Power, the first three films, incredible job, well done. And I love the films. I love the books as well.
And obviously, like, you've got to think, like, how are these things going to translate from book to the screen? Because like, people have to understand in the writing process that books that are done in the first person, are Games Workshop going to keep it in the first person, or are they going to turn it into an actual proper told story? Because everyone wants Eisenhorn. But the Eisenhorn books are written in the first person. It's always like I, me.
Yeah.
And obviously they're done almost with hindsight. So he's written them after the events have happened.
It's the same with what's his name, the Commissar Kane. The Kane novels are the same. It's him writing his memoirs essentially.
And the Ghost books, everyone's called Gaunt's Ghosts. But what a lot of people don't actually realise is the Gaunt's Ghost books are written as historical documents.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So there's lots of little sections in between the books at the start, the indexes and stuff. Even before the chapters, there's like those little notes, and it was like from early treaties of the Sabbath War kind of thing.
But if you think about, if you take into consideration things like Commissar Kane or Eisenhorn, if you adapt those books in a similar way as to how they did, for example, Band of Brothers, you could still make it work as kind of a memoir or a diary or
The Office.
Yeah. Not entirely sure that works, Jay.
Yeah.
Maybe. The big question I have is, do we think they're going to be bold enough to tackle, either via film or series, the heresy?
So, personally, I think when it comes to what they should do with the entire thing, is treat it like an anthology show.
Yeah.
Like not in the same vein, but like, you know, like we got like Black Mirror and you got stuff like that where like not one or two episodes could be an arc.
Yeah.
But they could condense it, because obviously you've got to think, like say like the Halo show on Paramount.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so it looks fantastic all that lot, but if you're a real diehard Halo fan,
It's terrible.
it's nothing, because like you're like, well that's not math.
The best Halo stuff they ever did was the adverts for the games.
Yes.
Which, like the ODST trailer, which was live action, and there was even a mini film they did whilst they were doing the trailers for ODST. Best things ever to come out of Halo.
Fantastic. Yeah.
But yeah, I need to do this now.
There's a lot coming up, but we have a new Thane as well, Joe.
I know, so I have to like go through it. So thank you, Alex Randall, for the one gifted membership. Thank you, Aludanaru.
Yeah, okay.
Udanaru.
Yeah.
Udana Ray.
Either Joe's read a name out or he's had a stroke. One of the two.
Unumanubadu. Flubadu. Thank you for the one gifted membership.
We're not getting any more from them now.
Thank you, Jacob Yu, for the 5 gifted memberships. Please tell me how I pronounce
Spell it out for him phonetically.
Udanaru. Come back.
It's going to bug him now. That's going to really annoy him.
Thank you, Trout187. Hello all. Happy early birthday, Liam. Hi, Kyle.
Hello.
Hi, Carl.
Thank you, the Eternal Crusader. Hello and welcome, Kyle. Tell us about your NID's favourite bug and why.
Well, I think if it's just the model themselves, I've always loved the Carnifexes.
The original, not the original, but
not
the dual kit.
Yeah.
Not the Screamer Killer.
Yeah, like more so than the newer one, but like the actual ones they've had for the past 10 or whatever years. Like that is, I absolutely love that model. And the Lictors as well. Like,
Lictor?
Especially the new ones. These new Lictors, like when I had them all on my table the other day, I was just kind of like seeing what I had. And you look at it, it's just tails and teeth and claws, and it looks fantastic. I absolutely
The new Lictor kit is one of, like, it's a real unsung hero for the kits. We talked about it a few times actually on stream in general. People haven't focused on the fact that what they did with that new kit, how pretty it is, how Lictor it looks, and the fact that you can make 3 different variants and you can have a max 3 in your army. genius job.
Yeah.
The fact that I've now got my bits box is just full of just lictor bits. I've got heads and stuff like that. I'm like, well, I could use that for this. I could use that for this.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic.
What makes it mad is that that lictor kit is a work of art.
Yeah.
And yet the Neurolictor, which you can take 3 of, is a monopose. Old Hanarua.
Old Hanrua. Yeah.
Old Hanrua.
There you go. That's it.
Old hand ruler.
So lictors, carnifexes.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Hive Tyrants are great, like the Swarm Lords are great. One thing I love about Tyranids is the fact that a lot of them are, they can be a bit monopose, but they are quite easily to put into dynamic poses.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to do is look at like Golden Demon and stuff like that, like the original Lictor kits and stuff. Like, I can't remember what year it was, but you had the one where it's like kind of coming over the pipes and stuff, and you had the Imperial Guard down the bottom.
Beautiful.
They're all fantastic, but like for playing and stuff, like, I mean, yeah, you know, like the Death Leaper's a good model, like.
Oh, their range refresh is they've just got a beautiful range mostly now. Now they've redone the Horm against the Gene Stealers as well. It's a beautiful range, to be fair. And you've got like 40 gaunts to paint now or something.
So built, I have 40 Termagaunts and I've got 20 Hormagaunts, and they are literally sat there waiting for me to just kind of just blast through them. But
effort.
I keep looking at them and being like, oh.
I've got a drawer on my desk, which is an entire half of the Leviathan box set that's based and built. And I'm like,
yeah. I mean, like Tyranids, I've been playing since 3rd edition. Like I was a kid. Like I remember me and my mate used to play in his attic.
Yeah.
He had his Black Templars, and I started with the Tyranids, and then I sort of kind of went on to Tau a little bit when their original codex first came out. But recently, I've been going back into. I'm more slipping into Death Guard as well.
nice.
Yeah, like I've never really dedicated to Space Marines or stuff like that, because every time I used to go to competitions, either at the local Warhammer shop or we used to do it in Rock Bottom Toy Store in Bargate. I don't know if you ever went to that one.
No, I know of it though.
Yeah, so everyone used to bring Space Marines.
Yeah.
So you get your Tyranids out, like just my hundreds of metal gargoyles all falling apart. Because you couldn't take the Games Workshop case because everything kind of
They
full
were
off.
awful, those metal
So I'm there with
gargoyles.
a Haribo box with some tea towels in it,
Yeah.
with my metal Broodlord and my metal Hive Tyrant with the original Warhammer Dragon Wing stuck to it.
Yes.
And I get out and they bring out their Space Marines and push my poo in. So,
Those
so I slipped to Death Guard for a bit.
those metal gargoyles were awful because they used to be on those little flying stands with the stems that would break off inside it, and you had to put the 2 metal bits together to form the circle, didn't you?
Yeah, do you know those things you get from like the Menkind gadget shops and stuff where it's like, oh, it's flying. That's how I treated it. So literally, I'm on the table, I'm just kind of bouncing on its head, just doing this.
Amazing. There you go.
Yeah. Thank you, Trout187, for 10 gifted memberships.
10?
Hello, Josh Holton, who's become a Thane.
What a legend. If you're in the Discord and you've just become a Thane, there will be a new thread that's opened up to you now you're going to have access to. That is a link to the Only Thanes WhatsApp chat. If you click that link, it will put you in the Only Thanes WhatsApp chat. If you have a problem with it, DM me on Discord and I'll sort it out for you. It's very busy. The biggest piece of advice I can give you on the Only Thanes, and a lot of them ignore me, is mute it. Because we're talking 200-300 messages a day minimum.
I've had times where we've sat down here to do the Liam Joe show, and I've gone off afterwards. I've got 100 missed messages. I've been for like an hour.
Yeah.
And everyone there loves each other.
Which does mean you'll get Joe's number as well, which means you can just send him messages of you breathing down the phone. You like
Please
that?
don't.
He's a fan of that.
Please don't.
But welcome to the Thanes. Welcome to the brand new Thane. If you are a Thane and you're in the Only Thanes chat, make sure you welcome, who was it? Josh, what a hero. Josh, love you.
Thank you, Taby, for the super chat. It says Alan Richardson, Reacher as Dawn. Yes.
I don't know who he is.
Have you watched the TV series Titans
No.
on Netflix?
No.
He plays Hawk.
Yeah.
That doesn't help me. I haven't seen the
He
series.
was my favourite character. And then
Is
killed
he
him
in
off.
something else that I've seen?
Did you ever watch Smallville?
No.
It was Aquaman.
He was Aquaman in Smallville, yeah. But he, apparently, he's been like, there's this big petition. They want him to be the new Batman.
Yeah. He'd be a good Batman
Yeah, he would.
Is
be
he?
the
with
Batman.
his largeness. He's just. Basically, I got that
He's
from.
a
He's
the unit.
huge.
Yeah.
And he's one of those people who's like, they're like, oh, what did you do? I work out 40 hours a day, probably have pizza for dinner. I'm like, I hate you. and your genetics.
Have you seen like the Rock's cheat meals and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Like when it's on his Instagram, it's just this plate. It's just like, oh yeah, just a little bit. It's like,
But he has like his own private gym, The Rock, anyway, didn't he?
Yeah,
Dwayne Johnson.
imagine that.
Bastard.
fueled by tequila.
He'd be a great inclusion to 40k.
Would he?
Just as Space Marine.
Okay, cool.
Space Marine
Yeah.
1.
Thank you, Kazarian. The Lord of the Rings IP is really split, and they could only use bits. I think it's all about as good as they can do. If they get the keys to the whole GW IP, though.
I think it's easy. To be honest with you, I think it will be easier to get the keys to the whole GW IP because GW own it and GW have signed the contract direct with Amazon.
Yeah.
The difficulty with Lord of the Rings is that IP is owned. There's sections of the IP owned all over the place.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And obviously, how you would be able to get the majority of the or get access to the majority IP. I don't understand IP fully myself anyway.
Games Workshop need to work on, right, is this is off it. They need to work out how to charge for merchandising, right? And this is something that grips me slightly. Is they've done a toy range now, the Bandai stuff,
The
The
McFarlane
Joy
stuff.
Toys and the McFarlanes.
the Joy toys,
Yeah.
and also they did a whole bunch of toys for the computer game.
Oh, original Space Marine.
Not New Space Marine. What is it called?
Dawn of War.
No, the new
Fire Warrior.
the newish one. With
Rogue Trader.
No,
Inquisitor.
Dark Tide.
Darktide. They did a bunch of Darktide toys. So you could get the Ogren, you can get the Guardsman, you get the Psyker, you can get the Chaos Cultist. You get a whole lot, right? All as toys. They're really expensive. They're like 30, 40 quid. And it's like each per toy. And I was like, the thing is though, like, Games Workshop come and sell them, so they're now in B&M.
But are they right?
I see them all the time in B&M. I see the Orc and.
But
all
are
the
they
characters.
actually being right? So here's the question, though, Joe: are they actually being sold as toys, or are they being sold to people like us, more like a
I
collector's
think once they
item than a
go
toy?
from Games Workshop, once you see them in B&M, in high street stores, for kids to buy because they like Warhammer, their older brothers and sisters play. Now they're toys.
But yeah, but a lot of stuff like that in like the States and stuff, it comes like Walmart exclusives. Like,
Yeah.
So B&M, a lot of that is stock from the state. Like that's why you can always get like the Oreo cereal and you can get stuff like
Yeah.
that. So maybe it's because it's there because they have a lot of exclusives on the
Yeah.
States.
Maybe.
But I think what they need to do is they need to get toys out there. Because at the end of the day, this is basically Games Workshop really committing to the world
right,
as a
okay.
franchise.
I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Do they? Because if you, at that point where you get figurines out there that people can play with, why would they buy the models as kids and get involved in the hobby?
Because it's scale, isn't it? Like, you could play with these toys because you watch the TV series kind of thing. It's like the same thing could be said. People that play Marvel Crisis Protocol, why aren't they using a massive toy of Captain America instead of the miniatures? Kind of thing.
Maybe. I don't know. I wonder if they're concerned about the overlap between the tabletop game and toys. I'm just spitballing. I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think if they really want the franchise to become huge, and I'm really conscious. I don't know how big I want the franchise to become myself, because there is a point where it kind of moves away from being what almost feels like a protected space, I guess, to an extent, and becomes super mainstream, and it's everywhere, and every fucking designer and every developer wants to get their hands on it, and it just becomes this generic thing that you see everywhere all the time, which on the one hand is great for the community if there's more people that are playing, more people that are involved. On the other hand, it's like, but I don't necessarily want to see a Space Marine on every single fucking thing I can buy in the world that charges me through the nose to have it on a cup and a bedspread and a fucking poster. And, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a balance to be struck between, because my concern with GW in general is, because they still act very much like a small company on the whole.
Yeah.
You know, like, they make decent money. They don't really have big company mentality right now. They still kind of work like a small company. And my concern is it gets carried away and they lose the, not necessarily the authenticity, but the DNA of what is Warhammer and Warhammer 40k specifically. If they hold on to that DNA, this is what I was talking about Carvel earlier. If someone like Henry Carvel, who's into the current lore, is able to convince people to hold on to that core DNA, perhaps we'll be okay. And then it can grow. And I want it, like, often things that grow rapidly fail because they grow too quickly. They grow so fast they can't keep up. So, and GW has had a little bit of that over the course of the last 6 to 9 years. So I think that if they grow a little bit, or if they're a bit more careful of how fast they grow, and perhaps going mainstream with toys is just a step not to take yet. Maybe it'll come in the future.
I don't know, because the thing is though, like if you think 80s, 90s, early 2000s, right? Cartoons and films were literally designed to sell toys.
Yeah.
Like Transformers,
Biker Mice from Mars.
Biker Mice from Mars.
Yes.
Right, every cartoon you saw as a kid was literally Hasbro saying, buy these toys. And I kind of feel like Games Workshop needs to head down that road. But obviously, it's almost, you're kind of looking at not adult content, but like this is a TV series / cartoons aimed at adults to sell toys to adults that aren't adult toys. So, for instance, like Rick, we're almost looking at Eureka, The Boys, Rick and Morty.
The Boys is great, by the way.
Boys is good.
Love it.
But it's because the thing is though, we are still talking about an IP that has tit horses and cock swords, like kind of. So this isn't. It's not something that you can sell to children.
Why do we love it?
Why do we love it so much? So like you have like demons and people being possessed, and literally the main weapon of a space marine is a chainsaw sword.
But this is where like this is where I am pretty keen that they stick to the like. Imagine if they really toned down Slaanesh on the whole. And they already have to a point.
They have, and they haven't. They've made Slaanesh Xerxes from 300, which is not a problem to me, because he's got his cool sextant with all the weird crab hand people, which is just Slaanesh at the end of the day. They've just kind of taken out the penis sword.
So do you think Warhammer-based television content, we should be looking at 16, 18 plus ratings?
Oh yeah, everything should be R-rated.
Yeah.
Everything.
So I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Absolutely.
Even like because they put out the free episode of the Commissar Yarrick, didn't they? And it was literally orcs telling stories about Yarrick, like a fable.
Yeah.
He's still going around murdering orcs on a spaceship with one arm, kind of thing. So it's still, so everything has to be, but also Games Workshop's, I think they're trying to get rid of the 70s and the 80s from the IP at the same time.
Yeah.
Because everything is old Nottingham hair metal.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
So they do need to bring the IP into the future, but they can't make it too.
I think this is my concern. If you make it too child friendly, if you go too softcore with it, you remove a lot of what it is that we love about the grim dark universe.
I do think there has to be some version of that though.
So I agree. I think my biggest worry that as soon as they announced it is that if it makes it really big, is it going to go the way of the MCU? Not in the way of the fact that, whatever your opinions are on the movies. But like obviously I grew up with these comic books. Like I absolutely love them.
Yeah.
And it's obviously when I was a kid, like reading it all, like it's not about gatekeeping it or anything like that. But now it's just, if someone says, you're like, oh, I like comics, like, oh yeah, me too. Iron Man and this and this and this. It's like, oh yeah. And like you said about finding it on a lunchbox, stuff like that. Is it oversaturated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no one really likes the movies as much nowadays because since Endgame and stuff, it's just I think
milking it dry.
It's a churn, yeah.
It's just the same shit every time.
I think you still have to though, because you think like Games Workshop doesn't just target adults. They have a school league kind of thing. They wrote Black Library books for kids. So I think as adults, most people who are watching it are adults. We have to accept now that there will be a childish version of 40K coming out.
A version's fine.
Yeah, not all of it though.
Exactly, 100%. And I want it to kind of, I still want it to appeal to kids as well, obviously, because they're the future of the hobby. I spent some time gently trying to persuade my eldest when he started to show an interest that this was a good thing to get into and not everything has to be video games. And when he started to learn the narrative of Blades of Corn and Age of Sigmar, he was all over it. He loved it. And the narrative itself was pretty grim for Blades of Corn. I absolutely think we need a version that brings kids into the hobby, whether it might be via TV, toys, etc. I don't disagree with that. What I don't want is that to be the version.
Yeah, and there's going to need to be multiple. There's going to be the kid version. There's got to be the version that I'm probably going to end up watching on my own. But I also want a version that I can sit down and watch with my partner. Right.
Okay.
And like,
how does those last two differ?
I think the problem is like my partner doesn't like watching war films with me.
Well, she's wrong.
Right. But she will watch. My partner, like what seems to be happening to all 30-year-old women, loves murder documentaries.
Yeah.
Right? So what I want is not a murder. Well, a murder. You could have a murder documentary in 40K, couldn't you? Really?
Yeah.
Because that's any of the crime series, or the horror. The 40K and fantasy have incredible horror books, right? So, for instance, my partner really likes Lord of the Rings. So I could probably get her to watch a horror series set in the old world.
Okay.
Like, because there's some great, there's a couple vampire series where she's hunting down beasts and monsters that are going around murdering people in Altdorf. So something like that I could watch with her, where she wouldn't watch Horus Heresy.
So here's the other thing as well. We've obviously, because of the nature of the channel, actually, for the first nearly 35 minutes of this particular episode of Liam and Joe Show, we focused on 40K. We haven't actually touched on the fact that this also could mean Age of Sigmar TV and Warhammer Fantasy, Old World. And as a massive Lord of the Rings fan, especially the films, and who was wildly disappointed at Rings of Power, I actually get quite excited about the concept of Old World as a TV series. Yeah. Orcs, goblins, elves. They could do some really interesting stuff with that.
Yeah, I think they need to go darker with the fantasy stuff, because as a Beasts in Velvet, great book. It's basically Jack the Ripper in the old world, and it's got an incredible twist at the end. But it is a horrifically violent horror story. It is grim.
But it could convert well to TV.
Oh, it would go over to TV really, really well. But I think the problem is, if we're going to go into the AOS, we're going to go into fantasy, we are perfectly well catered for in the fun fantasy genre.
Yeah. Demogorgon, Kev says, do we know if it's going to be live action or animated? I'm assuming live action. I think it will be live action. Yeah. Because animated is done on Warhammer TV already. Yeah. We don't need more animated. I think it will be live action. And that is what excites me. I personally, as an adult, really struggle with anything animated that's not a stupid cartoon like South Park or Family Guy.
I love stupid cartoons.
So do
I need to go back to this.
Yeah, I need to find out why Dave deleted that super chat, the fucking idiot, because it was a nice super chat. So Josh's super chat that Dave's just deleted before you read the rest of them said, not actually a new thing, returning after being made redundant, but got a new job through the Only Things WhatsApp chat. How good's that?
Yeah.
There's a reason to join. But Dave's obviously put his big fat fucking fingers on it. And now he's deleted the message. So sorry, Josh, I've got it. Don't worry. I saw it before he deleted it. I read it. I skim everything. Anyway, the other thing I want to say, whilst he's in chat, because I know he's probably working today, John McCardle, a huge thank you for the 50 gifted. We'll get to everybody else's in just a second. Huge thank you for the 50 gifted. Joe has given me the present. I will be wearing it this evening if you would like to turn up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not here. Long.
But the deal is,
flight.
you have to gift a membership for every minute that I have it on for.
Yeah.
And then
normally
3.5 hour show.
Right. Thank you, Trout187. With only 11 people in my office, I can't sneak away to watch my phone for your stream later today at my office Christmas party. But I'll watch it while I wrap presents tonight. I hope you will have a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you as well.
Yeah, you should put it on a big screen.
This is the trap. I love the fact that people are trying to sneak away from their Christmas parties and watch the show. Yeah. Christmas party is important. Have fun. Enjoy yourself. You probably deserve it after a year of hard work.
What if he's like a librarian? Does he have to be really quiet? Shh. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Silent disco.
Oh, you don't mean a psychic librarian?
Thank you, Son of Olympia. Clearly an Iron Warriors fan. I can tell by Perturabo.
Yeah. Ryan. No, not Ryan. Anyway, carry on.
Happy birthday, Liam, and have a Merry Christmas, gentlemen.
Oh, thank you very much. What a hero.
Jacob Yu, morning, y'all. How's y'all's day so far?
Is that your best American accent? Can you try again with an American accent, Jay?
Morning, y'all. How's all day doing so far?
My day is fucking fantastic so far. I actually I actually went and picked up my birthday Christmas present.
Yeah?
Yeah.
To yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no one else has bought me anything, Jay. Apart from John, what did you bring me, Jay?
Dinner?
I gave you I gave you your birthday present on Tuesday night after chat paid for it.
Yeah. My day's all right. Got a bit of a dicky tummy, but you know, I'm here. I'm at work.
Yeah.
I'm alive.
Yeah.
What can you want?
Yeah.
Right.
And Kyle should be working today, but he got a day off.
Yeah.
So he's here instead.
Yeah.
So you'll, like I said to you at the start, chat, you'll probably start seeing him on the evening shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But how's your day? Good? Well, you're here with us.
I mean, yeah.
Instead of at work.
It's going pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Cool.
This one's also from Jacob Yu. Also,
Jesus.
happy birthday, Liam. Y'all have a Merry Christmas now, y'all, you hear? And that's how he said it, so he typed it.
Mary Poppins, y'all.
So I have to assume that he's
You sound like
a
some
high-pitched Texan.
some Western bad guy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. You're a hero.
He's a Texan with his ghoulies in the vice.
My birthday's not till Sunday, to be fair, chat. So you've still got tonight.
Don't
as
give
well.
him anything tonight.
Wow. There's no more streams until Sunday apart from tonight, Jay.
Oh, okay.
So you only have
do it all,
tonight.
but aim it at Joe
Okay.
or Liam.
I'm fine with it.
Obviously, thank you, John McCardle, for the 50 gift.
50!
50!
What a surprise!
Yeah. Thank you, Evan Taminello. Good day, gents. I assume he's Australian. I'm not going to do. I don't want to insult every.
No,
country in the
Australian
world.
accent now, please, Jay. You started, so you'll finish.
I can't think. The problem is, I have to think of an Australian.
Just think of
accent.
Steve Irwin.
Yeah.
Crikey.
God, the
Good day, gents. Welcome, Kyle. I'm very excited to see what you.
Why does that sound like a shit action hero now?
Because I can't.
Just read it normally.
gotta
Go on,
commit.
it's fine.
Yeah. I'm very excited to see what you do for I'm very excited to see what they do for a 40k cinematic universe. I think it would make the most sense to start small and go bigger over time. Love the show. I agree.
Did we talk about how many Horus Heresy books were in the series?
When I looked on Audible, there's 123 audiobooks.
So that makes more sense to be a series rather than you can't. The thing is, here's my quandary, right? So, Evan, thank you for the 10. Take Horus Rising as a book, okay? On Audible, it's 10 hours long, isn't it? As a book, something like that, 11
What's
hours. Horus Rising, the first.
Yeah,
in
it's
the
about
Heresy series.
8-10 hours.
Well, you can't turn that into an episode, can you?
No.
So it would need to be a film.
Yeah.
So he's saying that every Heresy book that's 10 hours on Audible would need to be a film. I mean, if that's the case, we've got many years of fucking
Peter
cool films
Jackson
coming.
managed to turn one book into 3 films.
At 3 hours each.
Yeah, but if you look at The Witcher as well, like, yeah, they didn't stick direct, like, not all the time, but most of the episodes, especially the first season,
Yeah.
each one was a book or part of or mixed
Yeah.
between. So it's about condensing and getting rid of some of the filler, and it's,
Yeah.
it's more about what they're going to add to
Yeah.
make it a bit more mainstream. That's the
I
problem.
think they will either write an entirely new story,
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I
which
thought.
makes sense because they'll write it for telly, right? So like how they sometimes someone will write a book and then they read it for Audible and then they just read the book, or they'll make a Audible show, in which
Yeah.
case it has to be written like a script, or they'll take but I really want them to take and use. I've said this before. I want them to use the Elizabeth Beckwin books from the Eisenhorn trilogy, which is actually much later in the Eisenhorn series, but it comes from the perspective of a young woman. She's like early 20s.
I remembered, by the way, Son of Olympia's name is Madison, just so you know. I'd forgotten, and he's been with me since the start. So anyway,
And she's been brought up in a school dedicated at raising inquisitorial agents, but the scope of the entire series is on one planet.
okay.
In one city. So, and the city is called Queen Mab. So everything, but it's all very run down, almost like medieval kind of Tudor city with imperial stuff glued on.
It's just about how do you convert this to TV? This is where I'm really interested to see what they're going to do, because a book is a book, and a book typically is not going to convert to a single hour episode
No.
ever. So do they do extended episodes per book and aim for like an hour and a half. Still don't think it needs to be a film per book or multiple films per book or a full-blown series per book.
Yeah.
You could take a book from your Beckman series. You could take a book from Eisenhorn. You could take a book from Commissar Kane, and you could take one of those books and you could turn it into a 10-part series. Oh, you could do that.
Well, if you look, the Reacher series is 8 episodes.
Yeah.
And they're 1 hour episodes, and each series is 1 book.
Yeah.
Each series.
Yeah. So the second season literally came out like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Season 1 was like last year or whatever it was, and that's just the first book.
Yeah.
So I'm a person who really wants to see the Heresy series televised somehow, whether it's as a series, a group of series, a series, a group of films. Would you want to see them televised? Would either of you want to see them televised, or either of you like actually no, leave them as they are and do something new?
I want them to televise. I want them to make versions of the books that I like, but obviously. But the thing is, though, I think if they're going to make something new, like the thing is,
fuck everyone else, GW. It's all about Joe, our national treasure.
I want you to do the because the Beckwin trilogy, or there's only 2 out of the trilogy so far, is the best part of the Eisenhorn series. But I think it's only good because I've listened to the other 7 books. But like, I think what they need to do is make something new about something that already exists. So with Gaunt's Ghosts, they could do the Winkler Insurgency, which is one of his newest books, but it's a prequel to the entire series. Okay. So the ghosts have been formed, the planet is dead, they've just fought a battle, and they're now an occupying force. They have to deal with insurgencies. So they could do another one of those, because he wants to do these little versions of that where these are things that we've not talked about before because we've had to keep it on the quiet.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to here's a self-contained book about something that happened here. And then here's a self-contained. And they could do that. They go, here's a ghost TV program about something that happened we haven't seen before.
Okay.
And then just do it that way. Because then you're not treading, because there will be people that are really passionate about a specific ghost book. And if they do that but have to change stuff, these people might get really upset.
Much like the Lord of the Rings, perhaps.
Much like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Okay. More to read?
More to read.
Thanks, Evan, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you, Jill. Join Thanes for feet pics. Stay for love and support. Yeah.
I'm not disappointed in either.
Yeah. Thank you, John. He says, yeah, sorry, super busy at work. Missed today. Did Joe tell you about the other Christmas sweater? Apologies, it won't be there until January the 1st. Also, you did me dirty yesterday on stream.
Did I?
Apparently.
How did I do him dirty? Oh. The other sweater is the one that you've already shown me the pictures of, I think.
No, this is a new sweater.
Another one?
There's another sweater, yeah. I'm not going to... I don't want you to know... I don't want you to see it until it's here.
But I can't wear it until next Christmas.
I'm going to wear it.
It's for me. Or is it for you? Is it for me?
Either.
All right, well... Because the rules are, on New Year's Eve, the Christmas tree comes down.
What?
Yep.
No, 6th of January.
Nope, it's not December anymore. Down. Those are the rules.
Living in your house must be like a prison.
Yes, it is, yes.
I like the idea that prison warden just walks in, kicks it over. Yeah. Christmas is done now.
Yeah, tidy that up.
Yeah, you got to keep the Christmas tree up until the 6th of January because January is miserable.
No, January's great. I love January.
Why?
Because it's great.
Well, you do what my mum
Fresh
does.
start, fresh year. Off we go. In the gym for a couple of weeks before you give that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I've got my eldest's birthday, my father-in-law's birthday, my wife's birthday, all in January.
Selfish.
Great month.
Expensive.
Super cheap, yeah. Exactly that.
No,
down on the
6th of January.
No, down.
January.
Down
The Christian Christmas calendar lasts all the way up to Easter.
It comes down on New Year's Eve, and then on New Year's Day, we have a nice big roast, fresh day, fresh start, fresh year.
Yeah.
Everything's clean and good to go.
Fresh pants.
Fresh pants, yeah. For the first time that year.
Yeah. Thank you, Trout187. I know I mean nothing, but could I get a happy early birthday? I share a birthday with Dragner Liam.
What do you mean? You're one of our moderators, Mr. The Trout, and you're there all the time. You mean everything to us. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Christmas
Happy
Eve as
birthday.
well. Another person who's practically Jesus.
Almost.
I'm practically the baby Jesus.
Yeah, it's like second place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Jesus from
well,
Wish.
we all know there's no awards that come in second.
No. If you're not first, you're last. Right. Thank you, John McArdle. Again, he's just basically funding this stream. You would be crazy not to start with Eisenhorn. You'd be crazy not to start with Eisenhorn, with Gaunt's Ghost a close second. Has to be human orientated and get people into the universe with Space Marines only in the background, rarely glimpsed.
He said like Space Marines.
Space Marines. So
I don't actually disagree with that because for a lot of people, they're not going to have a point of reference.
yeah.
So I think that to use something like Eisenhorn or Gaunt's Ghosts or even Commissar Kane and set the scene of the universe before you then introduce the 7-foot lunatics with multi-organs.
Well, the thing is, like in the Eisenhorn series, Space Marines show up rarely. There is a squad of Death Watch in
ones that can't
the
hear.
first or second book. And there's the odd Chaos Space Marine. There's one Chaos Space Marine in the first book.
Yeah.
So there's no Death Watch in the first, but they're in the second book. And then
Similar in Kane as well, isn't it?
In Kane, that you've got 2 squads of 5 in one of the like mid-range books, which is basically him as a liaison officer for Space Marines.
Early on, there
There's
is an interaction with a Chaos Space Marine, isn't there?
Yeah.
A singular Chaos Space Marine. He's like, I would love and this is where I'm like, if you set the scene well and you pace yourself, doing something like Kane, for example, doing the first few novels as books, and you introduce orcs and you introduce gene stealers and tyranids and stuff like that, that's super cool. And you're really starting to set the scene of the narrative. And then the first time you ever come across anything in power armor across the whole of the Warhammer cinematic universe is a single Chaos Space Marine who's that terrifying. I'm into that. I think that's a cool way of setting the scene.
So, like, I think the way that I've thought about it when I've thought of how they do it is literally. Did you ever play Star Wars Republic Commando?
Did you ever go Commando?
No. So it was a game. It was PS2 or something like that. I can't remember. But you play as the clone commandos. So when you watch the Star Wars movies, you've got the super battle droids, you've got the Wookiees, stuff like that. Yeah, they're all fine. When you're playing it in the game, it's all first person. So these things are a lot bigger than you are. And one super battle droid is actually a bit of a threat.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see if, say, I saw someone put there like, oh yeah, have it from the view of the Imperial Guard. So if the Tyranids come in, it turns into a horror. If the Orcs come in, you can make it a bit silly, but they're a bit more of a threat. But when you actually come across an actual Space Marine, they are something that is just, like you said, you come across one chaos, and it is just this daunting threat.
What they're able to do with the TV series or with the films is actually make Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, and Custodians as terrifying as they are in narrative.
Yeah.
This is where it is, in fact, going to differentiate from the tabletop. So a Custodian in a TV series is the equivalent to a Marvel superhero.
Yeah.
Literally, like
in Traitor's Hand. That's the name of the book, which has you've got one. You get first introduced to one World Eater.
Yeah.
And
just the one actually.
Just the one actually.
and then later on, they're attacking this like oil rig, and 5 teleport in.
Yeah.
And everyone is shitting themselves basically. Because basically they're trying to get into this fortress. The World Eaters, they're like are trying to get in at the same time. So they're like, stand behind the World Eaters. Let them do all the work for us.
Operation Human Shield.
Yeah. So they're like, they don't even confront the World Eaters. They're like, we're going to stay away from them and let them do all the work for us.
Yeah.
Basically. So that's the best way to do it. Or the reason I want to use the Beckwin books is because there's one of each Traitor Legion in it. So there's one representative of each of them. And they all have very, very different positions within the book, good and bad.
Would you like the Horus Heresy to be done like Modern Family?
Yeah.
I think, they're saying Commissar Kane should be Rowan Atkinson.
He's too old now. That's the problem. He would have been good. The thing is, though, Kane is like
like Will Ferrell.
The thing is, though, Reacher could be Kane. Because
you just want to see him on camera again.
Because he's so beautiful. No, because he's massive. Because he's always
Is it? You haven't mentioned that.
massive. Because in the descriptions in the Kane books, Amberley Vale, the Inquisitor, says that he's really tall. He's usually the tallest person in the room, and he's really broad. So it needs to be a big person, not ripped, just fit, basically.
So Kyle touched on something as well. Orcs, right? Comedic value in the TV series, or go Beast of Arises, dark, scary orcs?
I think like black comedy, like so. I can't think of an example right now, but like yeah, because they by nature they are quite silly, the way they speak. Like it's going to come across as a bit cartoony. But if you make it so that when it's just them, say like I don't know, you see it from their perspective for a bit, but then you see it from I don't know the Imperium or whatever. But then they are a genuine. They are quite horrific to see.
Yeah,
but
okay.
They're
So you have like a juxtaposition.
yeah, like
essentially.
think like I don't know, like the Joker or something. Yeah, he's always cracking jokes. He's always a bit silly, but yeah, you do not want to mess with him anyway.
Okay, interesting.
They almost like
they're laughing whilst they're tearing. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, see, silly rules and orcs have always put me off. But like when the Beast of Arises series, where they're actually these terrifying, like angry, war-hungry, constantly want to fight. They're the orcs I would want to see.
you almost want them to. You kind of need them to be like. This is a stupid question. Have you watched?
No.
Avengers. What's the one where they make the bad robot?
Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron.
No.
Basically, Scarlet Witch takes over the Hulk's mind, becomes evil Hulk. Basically, that's what orcs need to be. Big grit, and he's terrified because he basically turns on them.
Yeah.
He's no longer nice, happy.
I mean, don't give him like Looney Tunes sound effects and stuff like that.
Yeah,
still make.
but he is. It takes a lot to put him down.
Yeah.
Right. So I kind of feel that's kind of what orcs should be. They should be like the Hulk. Obviously not Hulk levels of strength, but the way he's depicted.
Like certain war bosses and stuff could be Hulk levels of strength.
Yeah. In the context of the Hulk to other superheroes, it should be superheroes to humans, basically.
Okay.
I think, and then because they've managed to make the Hulk not stupid anymore.
Imagine like the Gremlins if they were 6 feet tall.
Yeah. What, in leopard skin dresses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
We have one of those, although he's not 6 feet tall, he's 5 feet tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question. Thank you, John McArdle.
Oh, that's a surprise!
The other sweater is definitely for the national treasure. It's not all about you.
It is at the moment. He's had his birthday, it's done.
And I can wear it whenever I want, however I want.
Well, that's not how work uniform works.
I don't have a uniform.
Well, maybe we do by that day.
Okay. Maids' outfits.
Yes. Only maids' outfits, no pants.
Yeah. Thank you, Jacob You. You know what that means. I have to say, you're a mighty hooting this morning for me, making my work day funnier than it has a right to be. Y'all have a good one now.
Why have you just decided that they all sound like Cletus?
And why have you got cutting this threshold between comedy and just pure offensiveness?
I mean, we walk that line forever, Kyle. That's the channel.
Because you put the y'all in it, and you could go for how y'all doing this morning. Yeah.
Quite,
it's nice
I do
down on the bayou. Gonna have some iced tea.
You've gone from
some
here
cucumber.
to like
We absolutely could just do a Joe accent stream.
It's like being in Louisiana right now.
Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, if I shut my eyes, keep talking, Joe.
Yeah. I'm gonna go down to the brothel this afternoon.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I thought I was there for a minute.
Gonna get on
Sorry.
my tugboat.
To all of you wonderful people over the pond in America, I apologise profusely for this terrible...
Have you heard Americans doing British accents? Come on now.
Yes.
It's all fair game.
Mm-hmm. It is all fair game.
Yeah.
Do we need to send Joe a banjo?
Yeah.
We were talking in the Only Tanes again earlier about getting you the Joe ped
No.
again.
a what?
A Joe ped.
A Joe pet.
It's a moped with Joe on it.
Have you ever seen the Moonwalker movie?
No. Don't ask me about movies,
have
guys.
a
We've done
look.
nothing in the last few minutes.
No.
I said to the Thanes I would pay for you to do your Joe ped licence and buy the Joe ped.
Bearing in mind,
Then we would just strap a camera to your head and record.
bearing in mind it takes me an hour and a quarter to get here. That's like a 2.5 hour journey.
Now you can weave in
on a
traffic on the
Joped.
Joped with the camera on.
Not on the motorway.
And
It'd
it
be
might
terrifying.
You can't go on the motorway on a Joped.
How the fuck will I get here?
I don't know. You don't need to use the motorway to get here.
I'd have to go into Totton through the back.
Yeah, I know. It'd be great. Think of the content.
It would be even further then.
Have you seen those videos where you've got the kid at the train station when he's got the camera on his head and it's just like that?
Yeah. So Joe helmet cam footage would definitely be a thing. Yep. There's 242 people right now, Joe, who should be at work, who aren't at work.
The working lurking.
And they're all here for that amazing accent. Only, it doesn't show me how many likes.
Well, consider it's 240 and the like starts with the 1.
Yeah, it's not right, is it?
No.
So we'll have to press this button again. Boop.
Yeah.
We're just going to be quiet whilst we wait for you to click the like button.
So what?
That's the awkward silence then.
Yeah.
What, Jay?
I'd say, what book do you want it to be then?
What book would I want what to be? What are you on about?
TV series.
So I mean, I'm incredibly biased, as we know from my favourite faction. But there's a few things. So I think that to start with, I would like them to start with something from a human-based perspective.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I want to see them, and I know this is an odd thing to say after an hour of literally talking about it. I don't know how keen I am to see them directly adapt a book or come up with something fresh. I feel like what you could do is you could take a character like Eisenhorn, you could take a character like Kane, and you could go, hey, we're going to do a TV series about Kane, but we're actually not going to do any of the books that have been done so far.
Yeah.
We're going to write something fresh.
Yeah.
People like Dan Abnett, etc., are still very much involved in GW and writing lore. Look at what he's doing at the moment with the Siege of Terror books. So I don't feel like we definitely need to try and adapt a book. And I feel like if you consider what Peter Jackson had to do with Lord of the Rings, maybe it's easier even for the TV crew, producers, etc., to have that creative freedom with Games Workshop's guiding hand, people like Carvel involved. I'd get people like Dan Abnett involved and say, and Dan Abnett's got TV series as well, or films. And
let's be honest, it's going to be Abnett.
So yeah,
Abnett, he writes Doctor Who.
Exactly.
He did Guardians of the Galaxy.
So he's been involved in screenplay before.
Yeah, he's done it.
So get someone like Abnett involved in the screenplay, write something fresh, use established characters, so people like us who know who Commissar Kane is are already invested because they're established characters, but write something fresh that's specifically designed for TV. Right, that's how I would start.
Yeah.
I would start with human. I would add a degree of comedic impact, which is why I personally would go down the Kane route, because you appeal to a wider audience. It's not quite so hardcore, but it allows you to introduce the orcs. It allows you to introduce Tyranids and Gene Cults. Arguably, you can bring in Tower in the Kane books, and you can bring in those kind of lesser terrifying races. And then you start to expand into the more scary things like Chaos Space Marines.
So there's a couple Kane books, like they talk about situations that Kane's been in, but not actually written the book for it. So Kane always talks about times where he's been trapped on an Eldar slave ship, like a Dark Eldar slave ship. That would be a great one, because that would be terrifying.
You introduce him as a character, and say the first series of Kane, and let's say 10 series, an hour each, right?
Yeah.
10 episodes in a series, an hour each. Okay, it's pretty standard nowadays for lots of shows. And you go, first series, he's introducing the Tau, okay?
Yeah.
And then once you've done that first series, that series is out there, you start the second series. The second series, he introduces Gene Cults.
Yeah.
What you can then do then is you can bring out another series that involves the Tau. We've introduced the Tau in the universe, now we know what they are.
Yeah.
Because we experienced them through a human's eyes, then you can build a Tau series. And then there's other, like one of my favourite series of books, and they're not the best books in the world, but one of my favourite series of books that they ever brought out was the Path series they did for the Eldar and the Drukhari. Not called Drukhari back then, obviously. And you had the Path series for the Eldar was the Path of the Warrior, the Path of the Seer, and the Path of the Outcast, right? And these were genius. I don't know if these would work for a film series, but I love the concept. These 3 books all cover the exact same time frame and the exact same series of events, but each of them do them from a different Eldar's perspective.
Yeah.
So one of them takes the path of the Seer and becomes a Farseer. One of them takes the path of the Warrior. The other one takes the path of the Outcast.
Yeah.
It's the exact same. It's the exact same setting. When you read each book, it's the same story, but from a different perspective, which is why I loved it so much. I thought it was genius. And that kind of stuff. Like I'd like to see a screen-based adaptation of the book. So you read Jane Czar as a book. It talks about the fall and how they pick themselves up, and she goes and finds this human, and they start to, they start to explore. what would be great would be seeing how Slaanesh was birthed in the first place, brought to screen. We've never actually had that in a book. We know about it. We've never actually seen that sort of thing. So I think you've still got some major events that happen in the 40k narrative that have never been covered by book in detail.
Yeah.
That they could also turn into cool screenplay.
Yeah.
So but I do think start with a human.
Yeah.
I would go Kane because you can go slightly comedic. You just have, I think, a broader appeal to people, and then you can bring in the alien races to start with. And I wouldn't. I know, and I'm conscious of this. I know Space Marines are the poster child for 40k and the poster child for Games Workshop. I know they are. Yeah. But I think if you bring them in right at the start, you kind of reduce the magnitude of what a Space Marine is. Yeah. So if you introduce Kane, and in Series 3, he's in real shit, and then you bring a Space Marine in to help him.
There's a great Kane book where he gets seconded to a Space Marine chapter, and they decide to go poking around on a Space Hulk. And I think that's a great way to introduce Space Marines, right? Because they're like, the start of the book, he gets rescued by 5 Terminators and a squad of Space Marines, right? And they're like, these are big and strong. Like, they've helped. We've killed a bunch of cultists flopping around on a planet.
Flopping around,
right?
As they do, yeah.
And then he goes onto a Space Hulk, and he's got Terminators watching his back, and they get shredded by Gene Stealers. It's a great way of saying, like, Space Marines are really strong. By the way, there's worse things out there.
That would make a banging show.
Yeah, and then it's him running around on a spaceship, terrified.
Yeah,
from Gene Stealers.
Yeah.
Like Rob Schneider.
That's another thing I think they need to be cognizant of as well. Space Marines, again, being the poster boy, what I don't want to see is every single Space Marine being some absolute immortal, which the books doesn't show them as, right? Space Marines die in droves in the books. Yeah. And I think that we need to be, we need to make sure that people like the Tyranids, even the Orcs, are shown to be the absolute terrifying power that they are. Yeah. And again, if you take the perspective of a human, you wait 3 series, you introduce a Space Marine because he's in real shit, and he becomes this absolute killing death machine who then gets his head pulled off by a hive tyrant. Like, they're also terrifying. Like, and there's this escalation that can happen. I think that'd be really cool. Yeah. I'm into it.
What do you want?
Well, what do you want? Yeah,
what do you want? Why are you here?
Basically, what I want to do, I've been thinking about it as you've been talking, is that I've got 2 things that I think they're going to do. Yeah. They're either going to do it from the perspective of like the Tau, something that's just, it's a bit more fluid with everything. You know, it's a lot more different way of looking at things. It's not just another sci-fi show. You know, you've got all the fantasy elements, like with the Tau especially. Like, it's, you know, they're completely unique. Or they're going to do it from the perspective of a human. Like you said, but like say, I think they're going to have it as an established story already, as in like, I can't think of an example, but it's already, it's as if you know what's happening. But that first season, as things are happening, like they've got the overarching story of that season or whatever it might be. Yeah, they're going to do it through flashbacks. But in my head, the way I'd want them to do it is if they're doing it in flashbacks, say they're doing it's this big battle, whatever, and like there are Space Marines there, but they're seen as like like how. Again, going back to the Hulk, like how the Hulk is shown in like the Avengers or the original Incredible Hulk and the Hulk movies. Yeah. When you first see him, he's blacked out. Yeah. But or like he's just, you don't see him. You see him from a lower down perspective or something like that. But you can.
It's always like from a shaky handheld
right,
camera.
And like so you're just these big things just walking past, speaking and doing whatever, and you see him from a distance, but never see him in like an actual focus shot until like they arrive in the current timeline.
It's like it's terrifying unknown.
Yeah. Right, and like that's, but it's seemed, it's all done through flashbacks. So like you might see like the glimpses of some Termagants or whatever this is and that, but then not until it comes back to the actual timeline of where the show is running through, and suddenly like opens up the door and there it is. There's a chaplain there.
Kev says they do love their flashbacks, Amazon. My concern is what we're actually going to get is something that's written from the perspective of a Space Marine, and we lose the magnitude of what a Space Marine is.
Someone
humanize them too much.
So this is what Jill said.
Use your words, Joe.
Jill super chat. So there needs to be one single character episode where they show a Marine going through the trials and the gene seed change process. Guest director special, right? They do the Dante book.
But here's
starts off as him as a child in the desert, and then it goes through all the way through to him becoming an initiate.
Well, here could be I'm going to keep going on about that, going down that human route for the first series, but here could also be a cool series to start with, right? And it starts human route. And again, imagine a 10-part series. You start with humans on some agri-world somewhere or on some planet, and it would be interesting to see them go, actually, the first series we're going to do is these people going on trials for a specific chapter, and perhaps only in episode 10 is he then unveiled as this full gene-enhanced superhero.
Yeah.
But you haven't seen him be a Space Marine. You've just seen do it. It's almost like 10 episodes of the Hunger Games before you end up being a Space Marine, right?
Yeah.
That'd be a cool series to start with, and because you start with that human aspect, you will get a sense of scale for Marines.
Yeah.
I think at that point. That could be cool. I remember Devastation of Baal. You've got the family where the guy, and it'd be cool for them to not shy away from the fact that not everyone makes it through the trial period.
Yeah.
So you have your lead character, maybe a Carvel or someone like that, who is the one who ends up being a Space Marine. But like that guy in Devastation, the lad in Devastation of Baal, I forget his name, who's basically been lobotomized because he failed the trial.
He's got brain, so he still can do his job. He's like a water farmer, but he's got brain damage.
He's a simpleton, and his dad hates him, and he hates the Space Marines because of what they did to him. And like that could be a cool series in itself to show. And like, you almost take like a class of aspirants in the second or third episode. So the first episode just sets the scene of wherever it is they are. And what life is like on that kind of planet, which is hard and horrible and shitty. Yeah. And then as you get to episode 2 or 3, you have this class of 20 aspirants. And then I don't know what the success or failure rate is for aspirants in Space Marine indoctrination, but get to the last episode, one's made it. Yeah. That's a cool first series to set the scene. That'd be all right. I'd be okay with that as well.
Or would they do something like The Mandalorian, where like you've got this big war zone or battle or whatever, and it's just a Space Marine looking after a child. That's really popular. Like, you know, when The Mandalorian came out, like obviously The Last of Us show came out. A lot of series and movies were about that kind of dynamic.
They did.
Would they just go along with
Games Workshop did a comic book series on Warhammer Community. Someone has to go and find it, where there's a bunch of Space Marines from different channels protecting a little girl. It's a great comedy series. So like the salamanders are always messing around with her and they're playing with fire. And there's a Raven Guard that's always hiding inside a cardboard box, kind of thing.
It's Solid Snake style.
Like Metal Gear Solid.
It's a really great comic book series, a great satire series that they've done. And obviously, like the Ultramarines, really unimpressed with how they're just messing around with her and not teaching her the Codex Astartes. Great series.
Okay.
Sounds like heresy to me.
Sounds like heresy.
But like, even like, all they could do, like this might sound terrible, right? But like, they did a kid series of book. They did one book, which
I've seen the poster
was called
for it.
Necron.
Yeah,
It's a bunch of kids like on a hive world, and they're literally running from one single Necron.
Have you seen the poster for it though? Like it looks the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
It's so silly. And then there's one which is like Nurgle is infesting the planet, but obviously they just deal with one plague bearer and some Nurgling.
I think what's very interesting, considering the conversation and the directions we've gone in today so far, and I think what's going to be very interesting in terms of the direction they go is, and one of the reasons why I think all of us, the three of us here and probably everyone in chat, loves the universe that we're invested in so much. Again, we've only really touched on 40k, and yet the possibilities of what they could make is endless.
Yeah. Cartoon series about Blood Bowl.
So I've sat here and I've been like,
mate.
But I've also been thinking about like you could do a series that follows a Vindicare and a series that follows a Calexis and a series that like it's just endless possibilities of what they can make. So I am incredibly excited. What I'm hoping is if I look at the wider picture, the bigger picture, what I'm hoping is we're not in for 4 films, 1-2 series, and that's it done. Like I'd love to see. I'm conscious of what you said earlier. I don't want them to go down the MCU route of just fucking milking it for everything it's got.
But just also pander it too much. Like you guys said it earlier about you want like say like an adult one geared towards adults, one geared towards kids, stuff like that. The problem is that when we were kids, when everyone first came into 40k, Heresy, whatever it was. It wasn't pandering to kids, but this is the problem with things nowadays. Like things have got to be like, right, we've got to Jedify it, we've got to make it really soft. But why?
But
it wasn't like that. But it was still geared towards kids anyway. But they didn't hold back. It just became that thing that you're like, oh.
One of the things is that Games Workshop don't like to talk about is the fact that everything that Games Workshop IP is just stolen from every other IP.
Oh yeah,
right, and they don't like to mention that. They like to pretend that no other TV shows ever existed ever.
I mean,
like when I got into 40k, my first proper army was Imperial Guard, and I got Cat and Chance. Because when I was 10, 11, I was watching films like Alien and Predator. So my association was, well, here's an entire army of Arnold Schwarzenegger
Yeah.
and Rambo. Right? That's what I want.
But that's the exact same with me with the Tyranids.
Yeah.
Like, the old Hive Tyrants look like the Queen from Aliens. Like,
So you just associate things that you watched on the telly when you were a kid with Warhammer. You're like, I like that because that's obviously that. Like, I like Necrons because I really like Terminator.
Well, if you look at every Space Marine chapter, they have
Yeah.
a basis that comes from a point of a reference in history.
Yeah.
So Ultramarines are Romans, Thousand Sons Egyptians. They don't like to admit it, but if you look at all of it, you look at the White Scars, and they have quite clearly a lineage based on history.
Yeah.
There's a number of chapters like that. I think almost every single chapter basically has some kind of.
so the White Scars were like Native American or something, didn't they?
They were
They're Mongolian.
Mongolians,
sorry,
thank you.
that's
That's
the
what
one,
I'm looking for. There's a number of them that have different frames of reference for their particular heritage and where they come from.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool though.
I think it's amazing. Like, even if you look at different chapters and different legions represent the same culture from a specific place, but through different periods of time.
Yeah.
So, Ultramarines are very Roman, aren't they, in their aesthetic and
Yes.
what
So
they
you
do?
look at Gulliman, like he
Yeah.
literally has.
But at the same time, Iron Warriors come from Olympia,
Yeah.
kind of thing,
Yeah.
and everything that they have is based on a lot later dictator-based version of the Roman Empire, where it wasn't so free, or it would be an earlier one because it was more of it's an iron rule. Everything that goes on here is life and death kind of thing.
Yeah,
Whereas
100%.
Ultramarines is the more political version of the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
So like they could really look at like time jumping through the Warhammer universe, because it's not just Warhammer 40k isn't based in 1 year. Like 40k is based over 10,000 years.
Yeah.
But again, if you just think about the sci-fi scope, it's not even based over 10,000 years because you have the heresy you can use. You can go pre-heresy. Like what we haven't touched on. So the Horus heresy starts with Horus Rising, right? And in the first 3 books, we start to see the fall of Horus in the first 3 books of the Horus heresy, right? What we haven't touched on at that point in the narrative, and at some points in later books it's talked about, but we haven't had an actual book that follows this, the whole start of the Great Crusade. Like they could go into televise literally how the Emperor came to be and how he came to power on Terra. Like none of this stuff's been touched on. And we haven't seen any of the Great Crusade. We haven't, some of it we get covered in some of the books where they go and discover the Primarchs, right? You start to talk about some of what happened in the Great Crusade when they discover the Lion and when they discover different Primarchs of different legions. But like, we don't even have to be restricted by 30k and 40k. We could go back to even earlier than that with TV. And then in the end, you end up with 20, 30,000 years of stories you could tell. Like this as a concept, this could be monumentally huge. And they need to not milk it, absolutely. They need to not...
Yeah, don't overdo it.
Yeah, don't overdo it. Once you've picked a topic or a subject and you've done the series and you've completed the series, right, cool, you've done that part, that's done, we're finished. But then when you can move on to a different series in a different time frame, different series, different time frame, different series, different time frame. Not to then forget about the fact we've got AOS, we've got Warhammer Fantasy. You could do Blood Bowl as a comedy cartoon.
Honestly, I would absolutely love that. That would be fantastic.
It would be amazing, because that is Warhammer Fantasy at its silliest,
Yeah,
but
but it's
also
just-
incredibly violent.
It's such an interesting concept as well. Though, like
especially because the whole thing is narrated and commentated by an Ogrind and a vampire, which is great. It says that Josh Enigma says live action Demon Kabulia. Basically, what Iron Warriors is a way of creating new Space Marine, like demon-infused women to become giant incubators for Space Marines.
but not suitable for work.
So they basically impregnate a woman who would then grow an entire Space Marine inside her.
Okay. That seems weird.
Just over and over and over. It was creepy.
This is weird, yeah.
Yeah.
They could do Thunder Warrior story on TV. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. They're actually, we're not restricted to just 40k or just 30k. They can do anything. I just want to make sure, like we said right at the beginning, that they do have GW holding their hand. They do have people like Dan Abnett involved, who is one of the chief law writers, and your Aaron Dempsey Bowdens and people like this, because I want them to stay true to the law, but they have such a huge scope.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes when we look at the 40k universe in general, there is a little bit more freedom than when you look at something like the Lord of the Rings universe.
Yeah.
And GW, we have been. We've been part of a developing and expanding narrative for the last, 20 years I've been involved in the hobby, right? GW aren't also afraid to retcon something to change the narrative for what's going on in their story on the tabletop. So what we also have to be, I think, perhaps accepting of is that there are occasions where something they produce might not quite be like we remember because they're changing the narrative.
Yeah.
But as long as GW have gone, it's cool. We're doing this.
I mean, you have to have their support, otherwise.
But I think that if we go, no, it's not how I think it should be.
Yeah.
Again, I wanted to stay grimdark. I wanted to stay true to that grimdark universe. But I think absolutely we could see some changes to narrative here to suit making it a TV series, making it a film series.
I've got the a few more super chats to go through. Thank you, Kazaria said the Infinite and Divine with Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. Print money.
Love it.
I've not actually listened to Infinite and Divine.
Have you not?
No.
I've listened to it twice.
Really?
It's really, I really enjoyed that book.
Who reads it?
Yes.
Oh, I love that guy.
Yeah.
And then thank you, Azrael Vecht says a dark series about the Underhive of Necromunda.
Necromunda would make great television.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it though?
I think with that one, that's where you do your kind of your true crime series. So you have, it's all about an enforcer, and then he has to deal with the infighting between the different gangs.
Would you want to see? So if we think about Necromunda, very skirmishy based, right, as a game system. So when it comes to TV and TV series and film, do you want to see skirmish level kill team Necromunda, wide scale Battle of Helm's Deep battles, or everything on that whole scope?
I think you need to do is need to find something that encompasses it all.
Okay.
In one. So if you think like Lord of the Rings literally starts with 100,000 people fighting orcs, and then this is a big battle, and then it's about a Fellowship of the Ring, and then there's big battles, and then
Star Wars does it as well, right?
Because you've got to think that like something about the Underhive is probably going to be closer to something like Gangs of New York,
or the Warriors,
or Blade Warrior, or Blade Runner, or the Warrior, stuff like that. Whereas I think what you need is a story about one person that goes to different places, like World War Z.
Yeah,
have you seen that? With
Brad
Pitt. So he's an investigative journalist, and he travels around the world trying to find out where the zombie infestation comes from. So he goes to like Antarctica, there's not much going on, but then he goes to Jerusalem, where like they've been building walls for a long time. All of a sudden, the walls are up. They must know something, and then obviously millions of zombies. So he goes around the world, different places where there's big things happening, small things happening, and that's all in one film. So you could easily do that with one character in 40k going from a planet, on a planet where not much is happening, lots of politics, to skirmish level fighting, something, and then he goes to another place on a ship where you have some boarding actions maybe, and then he gets to his place, turns out there's a full-scale war kind of thing, and then a bit of everything.
Well, films like Star Wars do good at doing both story arcs as well. They'll tell the story of people infiltrating a space base whilst there's also a giant galactic fight going on outside. Yeah. So they can tell the multiple story arcs at the same time. It'd be interesting.
So Star Wars, I think, is the best example. So if you look at, like, no matter what you think your opinion is on the shows and the movies is all about, you've got the Clone Wars, you've got this, you've got these big battles, and then you've got the shows, you've got Andor, which is this little espionage kind of little show. You've got The Mandalorian, which is the Western one. Like, you've got all, like, I think that's probably how they're going to go towards, if they're going to read, like, obviously they'll do the safe bet first, which would be the Imperium of some variety.
Yeah, of course,
again,
absolutely.
Poster child, that will be like, right, so come see, we've got these, then we'll kind of go, we'll get a bit weird with it afterwards, like with the MCU. They didn't do Guardians of the Galaxy until quite deep into it, because they're a bit fringe. It's a bit of a, like, the comics have never been massively popular until the movies came out.
Yeah,
so
but they weren't good. It wasn't until after, it wasn't like during Iron Man 2 that they decided that they were going to go deep kind of thing. And it still took them People forget it took 12 years from Iron Man to the first Avengers film.
I watched Iron Man the other day. It is actually quite an old film now.
No, it's 4 years.
Oh, I know, to the end of the whole saga takes 12 years, doesn't it?
Yeah.
From Iron Man to Infinity War. So, like, it's going to be a slow burn that people need to realise.
Well, and talk about that as well, something we haven't discussed.
Yeah.
We're not going to see anything for 2 years, minimum.
No.
Probably 3.
It won't be till next Christmas until we know
They've
who's gonna be in
literally
it.
just announced signing the full agreement.
Yeah.
They've now got to start scripting and set building and casting. We're talking 2-3 years minimum before we see anything.
And because it's obviously with 40k and all this being a bit not as mainstream as everything else, they're going to really have to take their time on it to try and get it right.
I think they will.
Because they're either going to really mess it up and then people will just absolutely ostracize it and stay away from it, or it will just blow up.
And we know how good they are at really taking their time and making it right. Look at 10th edition.
Just the name says a series based on Nostromo gang life. What I want the Primarch novel of Conrad Kurz landing on Nostromo and basically becoming Murder Batman.
So Joe watched everything, Jack. We've got a couple more to get through before we say goodbye to people.
So we've got, that's literally the last one is Meat Squadron. Great name. Necromunda series like the Warriors movie.
I haven't seen the Warriors.
It's one of those films that was really, really popular when it came out. It had a great cult following. If you've never seen it and you try and watch it now, you're like, this is bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You, like your experience with Lethal Weapon.
Yeah. Okay.
It was good for its time.
If you watch, like, say, with like Mad Max or something, your first film was Fury Road. You go back and watch Mad Max 1. It's a lot different.
I watched the Chris Hemsworth Red Dawn.
Okay.
Which I really, really enjoyed. Everyone's like, it's not as good as the original. I tried watching the original, but didn't enjoy it because it's a very old film.
It's just of its time.
Yeah.
Things have everything changes.
There's a lot of films people tell me to watch now and they're like, I'll just be aware of the fact it was made in the 1980s. I'm like, I'm not going to watch it then because I'll hate it.
Yeah.
Did you not like Lethal Weapon?
No, I hated it. But then I watched Die Hard the night before and I still love that. But then that might be nostalgia because I watched it years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, cool. Basically, I think what we could definitely say, chat, is that we are all probably pretty excited about what they're going to do, but we're all really hopeful that GW don't do GW and fuck it right up. So I think we're all pretty positive on the whole. They have a wide scope. I think they could do some really cool, interesting things. And I think even if they don't do exactly what we're after, it probably is quite an exciting time to be a Warhammer fan in general. I'm really excited to see what they're going to do. Again, today, mostly what we've talked about is 40k. We've not talked about even Age of Sigmar and what they can do Age of Sigmar or Warhammer fans see what they can do there. There could be tons that comes out. We have to be patient. Like I said right at the end there, we're not going to see anything for 2-3 years minimum, and then it won't be everything at once. We're going to start to see things come out. But I think that if you look at the next 10, 15, 20 years of content that could be coming out of that studio, it could be a really exciting time to be a Warhammer fan in general, a GW narrative fan. I'm really looking forward to it. So thanks for hanging out with us today. I hope you've enjoyed the Liam and Joe show. I hope you're also excited. If you are and we haven't covered off what you've talked about, please make sure you stick it in the comments below. Obviously, we had a lot of people over on Tuesday and Thursday last week going, who's that extra voice I can hear in the background? And then he joined us on the DMZ Call of Duty channel yesterday. So you've all got to say hello to Kyle now. Yeah. Going forward, he won't be off on Thursday, so you won't see him on the Liam and Joe show in the near future, but you may hear him on the producer's deck going forward as we're teaching him that first, sporadically, maybe, possibly. John McCardle, thank you for the poo. So I just like the fact that if you're going to hear someone, it's nice that you can see who that person is first, rather than just a voice in the backdrop for the next 6 months. Okay, so that's who it is. It's Kyle.
Hi.
Plays Tyranids. So he's threatening Joe and his Tyranids. John, thank you for that poo. Anyway. If you haven't already, please make sure you smash all those magical YouTube buttons for us.
There's 219 people and it's only 159.
You lazy fuckers. Hitting like is free. Hit like for us. But we're going to go off now, get ready for this evening, have some dinner and get prepped for this evening's show. I'm taking on Paddy in his towel and I'm going to be using the Adeptus Sororitas. And Joe is going to be running our producer's deck tonight on the final stream before our favourite day of the year, Liam's birthday on Sunday. And then the hangover that is Christmas Day afterwards, right? So if you haven't already smashed those magical YouTube buttons for us, get ready. I'll be scheduling the stream within the next probably half an hour to an hour, so you can all sit there and wait for tonight's stream. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye, have a wonderful time.